Bruce Lee was lying on the ground, blood soaking through his shirt, vision blurring, and the person who saved his life that night? Nobody expected it. Not even Bruce himself, the weakest student, the one everyone laughed at, the one Bruce almost kicked out of class 3 times. Seattle, Washington, September 1969. Bruce Lee's martial arts school on University Way was just a basement. Concrete floors, fluorescent lights, the smell of sweat, no mirrors, no padding, just raw training. 15 students trained there, warriors, athletes, men who understood that Jeet Kune Do wasn't about tradition, it was about survival. And then there was David Chen, 24 years old, skinny, 5'6", maybe 130 pounds, thick black-framed glasses that fogged up constantly. He joined 6 months ago. He was terrible. His punches had no power, his kicks had no balance, his footwork was a disaster. During sparring he absorbed more punishment than everyone else combined. He'd go home bruised, ice his ribs, and come back the next day. Always came back. "Why are you even here?" Mike, a senior student, asked him one night. 6 months and you're still worse than beginners. David cleaned his foggy glasses. "Because I have to be." "Have to be what?" "Someone who can defend himself." Bruce noticed. One evening after class, he asked David to stay. "I'm going to ask you something," Bruce said. "Why are you really here? Most people quit when they're bad at something. You're very bad at this, yet you keep coming back. Why?" David was quiet. "Then, 3 months before I joined, 3 men jumped me in an alley, took my wallet, beat me unconscious. I tried to fight back. I couldn't. I froze. When I woke up in the hospital with broken ribs, I had something worse than the injuries, the knowledge that I was completely helpless. I can't live with that feeling anymore. So you came here to learn to fight." "I came here to learn not to be afraid." Bruce studied him. "You're terrible at martial arts. Your technique is awful. You'll probably never be a great fighter. But you have something my best students don't. You understand why you're training. Not for ego. For survival. For necessity. That matters more than talent. So you're not kicking me out." "I'm not. But I'm pushing you harder. Because right now you're training with fear. I need to teach you to train through fear. Understand?" David nodded. 3 weeks later, that stubborn refusal to quit would save Bruce Lee's life. 3 weeks later, David's refusal to quit would be tested in the most dangerous way possible. October 15, 1969, Wednesday night. 8 p.m., class ended. Most students left. Only 3 remained. David practicing in the corner, Mike changing clothes, and Bruce cleaning equipment. The basement door opened. 4 men walked in. Strangers. The first man was tall, leather jacket, cold eyes, 3 muscle guys behind him. "School's closed," Bruce said calmly. "We're not here for class. We're here to deliver a message. You've been teaching Chinese martial arts to non-Chinese students. That's a problem. For who? For people who believe traditions should stay with their own people. People who think you're betraying your culture." Bruce's voice stayed even. "I teach anyone who wants to learn. If they have a problem, they can tell me themselves. They tried. You ignored them. So we're here to make it clear. Close this school. Stop teaching non-Chinese students, or there will be consequences. And if I refuse, buildings catch fire, students get hurt, you get hurt, maybe worse. We know where you live, where your wife works. Think carefully." They left. Mike asked, "What are you going to do?" "Keep teaching. Tell the other students. If anyone wants to leave, I understand. But I'm not closing." Mike left. David remained in the corner, frozen. He'd heard everything. "Are you really keeping the school open?" David asked quietly. "Yes, even though they threatened you, especially because they threatened me. If I close now, every bully wins. How are you not afraid?" Bruce walked over. "I am afraid. Fear is natural. The question is what you do with it. Do you let it control you, or do you control it? Some things are worth being afraid for. This school is worth it. I don't think I could be that brave. You already are. Every time you come to class knowing you'll get hit, and you come anyway, that's courage." David left. Bruce locked up, headed to his car. He didn't know David hadn't gone home. David was hiding across the street, watching. Because David recognized something. Those men weren't making threats. They were scouting, and they were coming back tonight. 20 minutes later, David's worst fear came true. The 4 men returned, with a gun, 9:47 p.m. Bruce reached his car under a broken streetlight. 4 shadows emerged from the alley, moving fast. The tall man in front pulled a gun. "Last chance," he said, aiming at Bruce's chest. "Walk away tonight, or I put a bullet in you." Bruce calculated options. 4 opponents, 1 armed, limited space, no good moves. The finger moved to the trigger. Then a voice shouted, "Hey, police, drop the weapon." Everyone turned. David stood under a streetlight holding his security guard badge, wearing his uniform vest. The tall man squinted. "That's not a cop. That's one of Lee's students." The gun swung toward David. Bruce moved. In that split second, he closed the distance, punch to the wrist. The gun flew across the pavement. Chaos erupted. Bruce fought 3 men, side kick, back fist, judo throw, but the tall man scrambled for the gun. David ran toward them. The tall man's hand closed on the gun. David kicked it, desperate, wild. Bang! The gun fired, bullets sparking off pavement, then slid under a car. The tall man turned on David, threw a haymaker. David ducked, clumsy, awkward. The punch missed. Then David threw a straight punch to the solar plexus, the most basic technique Bruce had taught him, the one he'd failed 1,000 times. This time it landed perfectly. The tall man doubled over. David followed with wild punches, no technique, just survival. 2 connected. The man fell. Bruce had finished the others. He walked to David, who stood shaking, glasses crooked. "You saved my life." David's voice trembled. "I was terrified." "Good. That means you're human, but you did it anyway. That's courage." Police sirens wailed. The 4 men were arrested. Attempted murder, illegal weapons. David's testimony sealed the case. 3 months later in court, David would face his greatest test, convincing a jury that what happened was real. January 1970. King County Courthouse, Seattle. The courtroom was packed to capacity. Every seat filled. People standing in the back. This case had drawn significant attention. Local martial arts legend Bruce Lee, attempted murder with a firearm, racial threats, a dramatic rescue. The Seattle Times had run front-page stories for 3 consecutive days. Local TV stations had cameras stationed outside the courthouse steps, waiting for any development. David Chen sat in the witness stand, wearing a suit that was 2 sizes too big for him, borrowed from his roommate because David didn't own a suit of his own. The jacket hung loose on his thin shoulders. The pants were too long. His hands fidgeted nervously with his black-framed glasses, taking them off, cleaning them with his tie, putting them back on, a nervous habit he'd had since childhood. The courtroom felt massive, intimidating. The high ceilings, the dark wood paneling, the stern portraits of past judges staring down from the walls, all these people watching him, the judge imposing in black robes, the prosecutor, professional and composed, the 4 defendants at their table, glaring at him with undisguised hatred, and the jury, 12 strangers who would decide whether David was telling the truth or fabricating a story. The defense attorney was expensive, very expensive, sharp-dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than David made in 3 months. He had sharp features to match, angular face, calculating eyes, the kind of lawyer who'd never lost a case he didn't deserve to lose, the kind who could make white look black and black look white if the price was right. He approached David's witness stand with the confidence of a predator who'd spotted wounded prey. "Mr. Chen." His voice was smooth, almost friendly. That made it more dangerous. "You claim my clients attacked Mr. Lee with intent to kill. Is that correct?" David's voice was quieter than he wanted it to be. "Yes, I saw it happen. And you just happened to be there. At almost 10 p.m.? On a dark, empty street? That's remarkably convenient, isn't it? Some might say too convenient. I wasn't there by accident. I was waiting for them. I knew they'd come back." The attorney's eyebrows rose in exaggerated surprise. "You knew? How could you possibly know they would return? Are you clairvoyant, Mr. Chen? Can you see the future?" "No, I recognized the way they looked at the school when they left the first time. They weren't just making threats. They were planning, memorizing the layout, looking at exits and entrances, studying Mr. Lee's routine. I've seen that look before. Where, exactly?" David's voice got even quieter. Several jury members leaned forward to hear him. "On the men who attacked me. 3 months before I joined Mr. Lee's school. Late at night. In an alley near the university. They had the same look in their eyes. Like I wasn't a person. Just an obstacle to remove. Just a thing in their way." The attorney sensed weakness and moved in for the kill. His voice became sharper, more aggressive. "So you, a man who by your own admission was beaten unconscious by 3 attackers, a man who admits he froze and couldn't defend himself, decided to confront 4 men. 4 dangerous men you claim were planning murder? That seemed highly unlikely, unless you're exaggerating the danger, or fabricating the entire story." "I wasn't trying to confront them," David said, his voice shaking slightly. "I was trying to create a distraction, give Mr. Lee time to escape or defend himself. I didn't think I could fight them, I just thought I could give him a chance. A distraction, by pretending to be a police officer, by falsely presenting yourself as law enforcement. That's illegal, Mr. Chen. Impersonating a law enforcement officer is a serious crime. You know that, don't you?" "Yes, I know that. So you admit, here under oath, to breaking the law." "I admit to breaking a law to prevent a murder." "Yes, and I'd do it again if I had to." The attorney smiled like a shark tasting blood in the water. He turned to face the jury, making sure they saw his expression of triumph. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let me summarize what we've heard. We have a witness who admits to impersonating an officer of the law, a witness who admits to being present at the scene entirely by his own choice, his own decision to insert himself into a situation, A witness who has a documented history of being involved in street violence. Objection. The prosecutor shot to her feet, her voice sharp with anger. Your Honor, counsel is testifying, not questioning the witness. He's making arguments that belong in closing statements. Sustained. The judge looked at the defense attorney sternly. Mr. Harrison, stick to questions. The jury doesn't need your commentary. But the damage had already been done. The attorney had successfully planted seeds of doubt. Several jury members looked skeptical now, their expressions clouded with uncertainty. One older woman in the front row was frowning deeply, her arms crossed. Another juror, a middle-aged man in the back, was shaking his head slightly. During the lunch break, David sat alone in the courthouse hallway, his head in his hands. He felt sick. He'd failed. The jury didn't believe him. Those men were going to walk free, and it would be his fault. Bruce Lee sat down beside him on the cold marble bench. Didn't say anything at first. Just sat there, a solid presence. They don't believe me, David said without looking up. That lawyer made me sound like a liar, like I made the whole thing up. Some of them might have doubts. Not all. That's how jury trials work. Reasonable doubt. The defense's job is to create it. But the prosecutor will have her turn, and I still have to testify. It's my fault, if I just let you handle it alone that night. David. Bruce's voice was firm. Look at me. David looked up, his eyes red. If you'd let me handle it alone, I'd probably be dead right now, or in the hospital with a bullet in my chest. Maybe paralyzed, maybe brain damaged. You didn't do anything wrong. You did everything right. You saved my life. Don't let that lawyer make you question that. But I did break the law. He was right about that. Bruce was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Laws are made by people, imperfect people. Sometimes following every single law means letting something worse happen. You broke a small law, pretending to be a security officer to prevent a murder. That's not wrong. That's wisdom. That's understanding what truly matters. Any reasonable person would see that. The jury doesn't look like they see it that way. Wait until they hear the rest. Trust the process. When court resumed after lunch, the prosecution called Bruce Lee to the witness stand. The courtroom energy shifted immediately. People sat up straighter. The jury paid closer attention. Bruce Lee was a celebrity, a legend. Everyone knew his name. Mr. Lee, the prosecutor began, can you describe in your own words what happened on the night of October 15th? Bruce described it all. The initial threat earlier that evening, the 4 men leaving, his decision to keep the school open, finishing his work, walking to his car, the ambush, the gun, 4 against 1, no escape route, the moment he thought he was about to die. Then David Chen, my student, created a distraction that saved my life. Your student, Mr. Chen, testified that he's not a skilled martial artist. In fact, he described himself as your worst student. Why would you keep teaching someone like that? Someone who shows so little natural talent? Bruce turned to look directly at the jury. His voice was calm, measured, but carried absolute conviction. Because skill isn't the same as spirit. Talent isn't the same as character. David Chen came to my school 6 months before that night. He came broken, afraid, defeated. He'd been attacked on the street and was living in fear every day. He had no natural talent for fighting, no physical gifts, no athletic background, just determination, just a refusal to give up. Every single class, he would fail at techniques. Every single sparring session, he would get hit, get knocked down, get bruised. Every single time, other students would surpass him, but he kept coming back. That's not weakness, that's strength, the strongest kind of strength. The prosecutor continued. And on the night of October 15th, when 4 men attacked you with a firearm, what did you see in Mr. Chen? I saw a man who had spent 6 months learning to face his fears, learning that courage isn't about being unafraid, it's about acting despite fear. When the moment came, when most people would freeze or run away or hide, he ran toward the danger, not because he was fearless, but because he was more committed to helping someone else than he was afraid of getting hurt himself. That's the highest form of courage I know. That's what I try to teach all my students. David is the only one who truly learned it. The room shifted. The jury paid attention. 2 days later, the verdict, guilty on all counts, 12 years prison. Outside, reporters swarmed. Mr. Lee, how does it feel having your life saved by your student? Bruce looked at David. David Chen isn't just my student. He's proof that courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about acting despite fear. But what Bruce Lee did next would change David's life and create a legacy lasting 50 years. February 1970. 1 month after the trial, David returned to class. Something had changed. Not in the class, in David. First sparring session, Mike paired with him. David threw a combination. Sloppy, awkward. But this time there was intent. Commitment. Mike actually had to block seriously. Better. You're still terrible, but terrible with purpose now. Over 6 months, David transformed. Not into a great fighter. His technique stayed mediocre, but into something more valuable, someone who understood why he was training. He stopped hesitating, started treating failure as information instead of defeat. Bruce gave him responsibilities, helping with beginners, not because David was skilled, but because he could explain what struggling felt like. One evening, Bruce asked David to stay. He pulled out a black belt. Plain. Simple. I don't give these out often. For you, this means something. You completed the hardest journey from fear to courage. Not physical strength, something deeper. You earned this. I can't. I'm still not good at. It's not about fighting skill. It's about living. Take it. David took the belt, holding it like gold. One more thing. I'm opening a Los Angeles school next year. I need someone to help run Seattle. Someone who understands what this training really means. Interested. Me. But you're exactly what this school needs. Seattle, Washington, 2020. An old man, 75 years old, stood before his martial arts school. The sign read, Jun Fan Jeet Kundu Chen School of Martial Arts. David Chen. No longer skinny, no longer wearing thick glasses, but still carrying that humble energy. A young woman approached. Small, nervous. Is this where I sign up for classes? David smiled warmly. This is the place. What's your name? Sarah. I was attacked 3 months ago. I froze. Couldn't do anything. A friend said you teach people like me. Come inside, let me tell you a story. They sat in the office, walls covered with photos. Bruce training, Bruce and David together. News clippings from 1970. In the center, a framed black belt with a plaque. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it. Bruce Lee to David Chen, 1970. 50 years ago, David began. I was exactly where you are, afraid, convinced I was too weak. I joined Bruce Lee's school expecting to become a great fighter. That's not what happened. What did happen? I became something better. Someone who understood that strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about acting when you are afraid. Bruce taught me that. One night I had to prove it. I had to save his life despite being terrified. David told the story. Sarah listened, eyes widening. You really did that, even though you were scared. Especially because I was scared. That was the point. He stood. Come on, let me show you the training floor. Fair warning, you'll be terrible at first. The question isn't whether you'll fail, it's whether you'll keep coming back. Sarah stood, something shifting in her expression. I'll keep coming back. Good, that's all I need to hear. They walked to the training floor. On the wall, a massive photo. Bruce Lee and young David, both in fighting stances, both smiling. Bruce's stance perfect, David's awkward. But Bruce's hand was on David's shoulder. Below it, Bruce's handwriting. David, real strength is not in the body, it's in the spirit that refuses to surrender. You have that spirit. The greatest victory is not over your opponent, it's over your fear. You've already won that battle. Bruce Lee, October 16, 1969. Sarah read it, eyes misty. He wrote that for you. The morning after, told me I'd proven something most martial artists never prove. David turned to Sarah. That's what you'll learn here. Not how to be fearless, how to be courageous. There's a difference. When do we start? Right now. First lesson is free. I'm ready. David smiled, the same smile Bruce had given him 50 years ago. Then let's begin. White text on black. David Chen ran Bruce Lee's Seattle school for 35 years before retiring in 2005. He trained over 3,000 students, many who'd been attacked and were learning to overcome fear. The 4 men who attacked Bruce Lee served 12 years in prison. Bruce Lee wrote in his personal notes, "True courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it." David taught me that. David Chen is 79 years old and still teaches private lessons twice a week. When asked about that night in 1969, he always says, "I didn't save Bruce Lee, he saved me first. I just returned the favor." Final image, old David Chen in his school, black belt around his waist, slight smile, voiceover, Bruce Lee's actual voice. A goal is not always meant to be reached. It often serves simply as something to aim at. But when you aim at something worth fighting for, you become someone worth being. Be water.